After probably pretty close to 30,000 miles and several trips to Tennessee and back, several trips to Florida and back, all the way out west to Nevada and up to Wyoming, the old suspension on the camper is starting to look pretty tired. So since we've noticed it being a little softer in recent trips, it is time for us to take out these old leaf springs and replace them all. You can see that the bushings are looking a little bit worse for the wear, particularly like that one right there. And they are a plastic bushing, so they definitely do age out over time. We've also been having some issues with the brakes on the camper since actually over this course of several trips. And we were getting a short fault on our last trip, so it was intermittent, but you always want to know that you have brakes. So we're going to address that issue and find out where that fault is, and then we will replace all of the brake parts.
So suspension on these things really isn't meant to be hauled down the road. I'm just going to leave that as a blanket statement. Shackles are super thin. You can see how those are worn out. If I take that bolt out and put it in there, you'll see how much play there is in that. That shackle was about ready to rip through and leave us on the side of the road. And that's not the only one. They all look similar. The bushings, they're plastic and they pound right out. So if you put that bolt in there and put that in there, it's just all sloppy as can be. Everything's just sloppy. Just not meant to be on the road. The suspension is meant to be hauled maybe a couple hundred miles in its lifetime. So we've got new springs, we've got a shackle kit that will show you a lot thicker shackles. They're greasable. There's bronze bushings that we got to go in the leaf springs. We got new backing plates with all the brakes, and I'm questioning my equalizers. I don't see anything necessarily wrong with them. I mean, they're a little, they're supposed to be loose. That's how they work. There's a rubber bushing in there, and these things kind of come up against the rubber, take some of the shock out of it. But I'm kind of wondering if I should have changed them too, but that's another story. But these springs, I don't know how long they're good for, but these are been in there since 2018, probably got all of 30,000, maybe even 45,000 miles. And like I said, all these bushings, you can see that bushing right there, see how it's worn right out and gone, and that's just, everything is just sloppy. Just that's what it boils down to. So if you guys follow me, we're gonna go get some parts, and I'll show you what we got. So here's what we got for parts. We got our shackles. We'll take these out so you can see them out there, but you can see how much thicker they are, and they're greasable. We've got pieces of parts, we've got new springs, and our new brakes. So I didn't buy new U-bolts. Kind of thought I did, but I guess I didn't. The old ones are fine. I usually look at U-bolts as a one-use thing, but on the camper, on the trailer, they're not rusted or anything, so we're going to go ahead and reuse them. So I wanted to show you a side-by-side on the shackles real quick. Take this one apart. So that's the factory shackle. And that's the aftermarket one. I don't know if you can see the difference on the camera. Probably if I do that, you might be able to. It's a good, well, here's how you tell. Two of these things together, and we're still thicker than two of them together. So it's probably 2.5 times one of these. And like I said, that one there is real bad. You can see how close that one was leaving us on the side of the road. I do keep some spare parts in the truck, in the camper, just in case. Like I said, we already put our bronze bushings in. We've got to go put them in our equalizers, or decide if we're buying another set of equalizers. I did go with a little bit heavier spring. This is a 5 leaf instead of 4. I think that after weighing the camper and everything, I felt like this is a better choice from a weight standpoint. So we're going to put that in. I think it's going to set a little higher, So I think we might go up one hole on the springs. I'll have to make some decisions there, but yeah, I think we're going to take a break. We're going to go in and fire up the computer, and we're going to find out what a pair of these things cost. And probably once I see that, I'll put the bushings in these ones and keep using them, and we'll be right back and put it back together.
And in case anyone was wondering, he's not being all that helpful. At least he's cute, though.
I had a couple because, like I said, I keep a spare spring, U-bolts, and a spare set of shackles with me in the camper. So I grabbed the two I had, and they are long enough. As you can see, looking at that other one, they are not long enough. I'm gonna have to get hold of E-trailer tomorrow and see what I can get and how quick I can get it. I mean, I guess there's no real hurry, but it'd be nice to finish up the project. To be clear, we got a few weeks before we need to haul its floater, I guess.
They're okay for driveway sitting, not so good for going down the road.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty surprised I didn't order them at the same time, because I'm almost always order U-bolts anytime I do springs. You guys have probably heard me say it many times. I treat U-bolts as a one-use item. And you can see here, there's no weight on when I took the bolt out. And you can see, well, if you're where I am, you can see the bushing in this hole. So it's probably, yeah, I'll take you guys over here and see if you can see it. You can see the bushing in the middle hole now instead of the bottom. So these springs are probably about 3/4 of an inch taller, and the holes are about 1.5 inches apart. So I'm not really sure if I'm making the right decision by going up a hole, but that's what I'm doing. So we'll see where it lands us. Worst case, we do this all over again. Actually, what I may do is I may leave that one hole down. I don't know. We'll take a look at it. And I'm not tightening things super tight. I'm just getting things snug enough that if I do have to wait a couple days for parts, I can set it back down on its tires and take the weight off the jacks. Because right now I got the whole camper sitting on its 4 jacks, which I don't usually recommend doing, but that's what I did. If it was a big, 35, 40 foot fifth wheel, I'd probably block up in here somewhere and put jacks under it, but it's not a very big camper as far as fifth wheels go. Okay, one of those bolts over there. So on these bolts there's a hole, and that's where the grease comes out. You don't want it pointing straight down because the weight of the spring sets on there. So you kind of want to look at that when you put it in. There's no actual mark on here, but you kind of want it pointing generally up. And these are serrated, so when you crank your nut in, these are going to suck into this and not turn. So that's pretty much it, other than getting our equalizer ready to go. Like I said, I think we're going to go take a quick break and figure out what those things cost and order 8 more of these. We have the handy dandy E-trailer part number right there for us.
Not sponsored.
Yeah, not sponsored. We could be though. Yeah, and I think maybe, so today's Sunday, we're just trying to get a jump on this. I actually was taking a vacation day Tuesday to do this, So that's why I say if I can get parts here for Tuesday, it's all kind of makes sense. But I may change these brakes while I get this side apart. These are the 2 new tires, so these are going right back on. The other side has another defective tire and 1 new Goodyear, which I'm convinced now is junk after having 4 Goodyears fail within 3 years. And I'll show you that one later in the video. So yeah, we'll be back. So we're going to actually show you the whole process of changing the brake backing plate. Yeah, say that fast. I have found 2 so far that were shorted out. So I think that's explains why I wasn't having any camper brakes. And I've changed 3. So you take the little lock off. Some will have a cotter pin, some have this thing, but it's got a little tab that goes on the flat spot on the spindle. I know I showed you some because I told you not to tighten this too tight, but we'll take the nut off. And in my case, we're not repacking these wheel bearings because we just did it before we left Florida. Trying to set them someplace where they don't get dirt. And then we're going to take this off. And you see it's looks all good inside, just got a little bit of brake dust, so we'll set that down, which will knock the brake dust out of it. Then we got to take this off. I've already cut my 2 wires, and then that's in this case it's a 9/16 times 5. Out of the way, on all the studs, start your nuts, and I'm sure there's a torque spec for these. I'm sure somebody will tell me down in the comments, but 4 or 5 booger doogers is pretty good for me on these. I'll torque stuff that's really important, but stuff like this, I get a pretty good feel for the impact. Brake drum. Being careful not to rub the seal across the threads. Take our parts. The washer also has a flat spot on it that goes on that spindle. Just like that. Put that back on. Lock back in, and our cover back on. So the only thing I got left to do is hook these wires up. So you can see that's how quick it is to change brakes. I'm going to get some more the crimp, butt splice crimps with the heat shrink on them, and do all 4 wheels. So now what I gotta do is I gotta crawl under the camper and take the nuts off these bolts and pull these springs out, put the new springs in, and snug those U-bolts back up. So back together, torqued, dirty. I'm gonna grease the wet bolts, and we're gonna show you that tire and go change that. So I don't know if you guys can see that on video, but like if you come over here where I am at, look that way at that tire. See how that's round? That's supposed to be flat. See if I bring it around, it's pretty flat. And that's what all 4 of those Goodyears have done. American made quality. Sad to say, but we're going to Chinese tires to try to get a quality tire. I don't know. Probably should have called Goodyear and see if we could get some warranty out of it, but they happen one at a time. I just assumed we'd hit a pothole and we'd broken the belts on one of the tires. And when we got to Indiana, we found 2 more like that. When we got to Maine, we found a 4th one like that. So all 4 tires have done that same thing. We don't run them overinflated. We run 75 PSI on an 80 PSI tire. Camper called for load range D. These are E, so they're plenty heavy of a tire. So I don't know. All right, so E-trailer came through. We got our U-bolts. It's the last piece we need to do. I've got the camper weighted up pretty good on the jacks. Now I do have the bottle jack under the axle because when I take the U-bolts out, the axle is going to want to fall. I'll show you here what we got going on. I don't know if it was completely clear in the other video, but maybe I can take you guys for a little ride. So I don't know if you guys can see that in there very well, but you can see that we're only about half a nut on the threads. And that's just not kosher, not safe. We're not happy with that. So we're going to go ahead and but this is one of those projects that if you're comfortable, it's not hard. You need a couple jacks, some tools. Tools you probably should have anyways if you're RVing. These things break. Things come apart, things loosen. And you know, if you're on the side of the road and you're waiting for a mobile tech to come and change a leaf spring for you, or you're waiting for services to come and change a tire for you, you could be there a long time, and it's going to be expensive. So
It's going to be a bad day.
you know, if you're RVing a fair amount, you kind of need to learn to get your hands dirty a little bit and work on these things, I think, just because that's, like I said, they are going to break. And nothing super complicated. Watch some YouTube videos. Make sure you watch more than one. You know, if something doesn't seem right, watch another one, because not every YouTube video is, you know, correct. And yeah, don't be afraid to get your hands dirty.